Thank you for having me. And being a founder and entrepreneur for 20 years, it comes with its bad habits, and I don't make presentations. So I've made some notes, so I apologize for that. Uh, I'm a Bombay boy. I grew up there all my life, and I have visited the Taj many times. I was there in Bombay when the attacks happened. I race boats. I usually am found on the weekends at the Royal Bombay Yacht Club, which is a historical building right next to the Taj. I've been married for 13 years, but I couldn't propose to my wife at the Taj at the Sea Lounge because the option was either buying a bottle of wine, which would cost the same amount as the ring. So I preferred just to have a bottle of wine. So I couldn't afford the ring. At some point of time, I went down on my knees on the beach in Goa in shorts and flip-flops, and that's how we got married. It was a cheap wedding. Most Indians don't get divorced because the weddings are so painfully long and expensive that they just don't want to go through it again. So I think we have a lot to thank the Taj for. That's another byproduct of their success, is you get married once and then they don't let you get divorced because it's so bloody expensive. Anyways, background on BookMyShow. I'm a founder of this company called BookMyShow. I started the company 20 years ago. If you watch the movie Forrest Gump, I'm the Forrest Gump guy. I live in a 1 kilometer radius in Juhu in Bombay. My schooling, my college, my nursery, my piano, my speech, my office, everything is on a 1 kilometer radius. My parents' home and my sister's home. I go to the beach every day. So my worldview is very, very simplistic, and I continue to build my business there. India, in a sense, was exactly, and I don't mean this derogatorily, what Sri Lanka was many, many years ago. Payment systems, online connections, connectivity, infrastructure for entertainment didn't exist. And when I built the business in 1999 at the age of 24, in 2 years we went through the dot-com bust and I was pretty much wiped out. And it stems from challenges that you face, and enough has been spoken about that today, but I just wanted to share my personal story where we went from 150 people down to 6. I was wiped out. And Indian mothers are very similar to Jewish mothers. You can go and ask them for anything, and they'll do that for their boys. We went and mortgaged the family home to buy back my company from News Corp at that time in 2001. From 2002 to 2007, all we did was build an infrastructure. I just want to give you the state of the business so we set the context as to why Sri Lanka and where I think this can go. BookMyShow today has about 1,600 employees. We're present in about 680 cities and towns in India. We're present in Sri Lanka, we're present in Dubai, we're present in Saudi Arabia, we have a presence in Malaysia, we have about 20 people up in Singapore as our Southeast Asia office, and we have about 45 people in Jakarta, and we have about 1,300 people in India. We sell 20 million tickets a month. We're probably one of the top 3 companies, entertainment companies selling tickets in the world. We do about 5 billion page views, about 150 million visits, 55 million monthly actives, and we have 100 million people that have downloaded our mobile app. That's the scale of the company. Last year, we ended the year in $1 billion in sales. We've just been valued at $1.3 billion, and we've just been invested by some of the largest VCs all across the world. We've also now shifted focus for the last 2 years, and what we've done is now we're building live entertainment. We've become the largest live entertainment company in Asia, just in the span of 2 years. We've also now a real estate company, and we're building domes and arenas, and the first one will probably come up in the middle of next year, with 2 more in the major cities and 4 more in smaller towns in India. And then we have merchandise and we have content. And the reason I'm telling you this is because in South Asia and a lot of countries, people tend to think, we look at the Western model. Will Sri Lanka go the United States way? Or will it go the European way? Or will Sri Lanka go the China way? Sri Lanka will go the Sri Lankan way, just like how India has gone the Indian way. And I think you've got to have that pride amongst yourselves and stop looking east and west and all around and start discovering the Sri Lankan way. And I'll give you my own example that the reason why we've gone into infrastructure, why are we building live events, why are we doing ticketing, we were happily doing an internet company which skims on the top and makes a lot of money, and that's where value creation comes from online .com companies. But in countries like ours, and especially with Sri Lanka and India, if you're not the flag bearer and you don't create the market, where there are no roads, you can't sit and drive a car on it, like this beautiful car here. You've got to first pave the road, you've got to tar the road, got to then put a toll booth, you've got to put bollards and a toll collector to collect the toll. And if you don't have the full stack in your business or a full stack in the industry that you're trying to build, you cannot build anything. And so we've heard a lot about tourism, but if you don't do the basics and get the foundations right, we will all be struggling. My tryst with Sri Lanka started 4 years ago. Again, I don't mean to be derogatory, but my vision of Sri Lanka was like a place in southern India. Nothing wrong with it, but I've seen enough of it. And so I never visited. I'm 45. Do you have a home in Neurelia called Stonyhurst? I have stayed there, and that was my first visit 4 years ago, at your home at Stonyhurst with my family. And I booked an Airbnb, gorgeous home, so thank you for your hospitality. I've even written to you. And I had a four-year-old son then, and you said, just be careful that the glasses don't break. None of them did break, by the way. So I came here 4 years ago, and we went to Ambalangoda, Hikkaduwa, Gaul, stayed at his beautiful home in Neurelia. On a whim, like an idiotic entrepreneur is, I took a risk and became a member of the Sri Lanka golf course. I've never been there since. I paid a lot of money. Then came to Colombo, and as all Indians do, bought Noritaki because it's cheaper and I can save some taxes. However, what it did for me was I just loved the difference. And it was so refreshingly different. Nobody honks on the streets. All the parks, the walls have been broken and they've merged with the roads. It's a matriarchal society. Everybody waits at the zebra crossing. There's a police, which is the environmental police, which charges you 5,000 rupees for littering on the streets. And these were the memories I took back. The food was different. The hospitality was warm. People had open hearts and open minds, and they always smiled. And these were the things that my learnings and my observations were with Sri Lanka. And I said, you know what? It is so different. I love this place. I'm going to be a little selfish and try and build a business in this small island nation so that I can come here more often. This is probably my 15th trip since then. Only maybe 3 of them have been work-related. I just make an excuse to come here all the time. So I have Dilip to thank again for being here. In terms of entertainment, in the internet world, we look at something called LTV over CAC, which is lifetime value of a customer over the cost of customer acquisition. And I think Sri Lanka acquired me as a customer because I just came here. The problem with Sri Lanka today, and India is sitting at your doorstep with 1.3 billion people, and India has 36 states, different language, different food, different cultures, different people. But I look at India as 3 sort of nations. And again, I don't mean to sound rude, but the top 100 million Indians, I call them the United Kingdom of India. They dress like me, go to private schools, private healthcare, private medical care, and they can be in any part of the world. That's 100 million Indians, whose PPP is probably the same as any European developed nation. The next 400 million Indians, which didn't exist, I call them the Brazil of India. And they are the emerging middle class. They speak in the local language, and Hindi or English is probably a distant second or third language. And then you have the Africa of India, unfortunately, which is underserved and underdeveloped, and that's going to rise over a period of time. So you have an opportunity to at least target the top 100 million Indians, which are tourists whose money and spending power is compared to none. And you can have those guys come here. And then this 400 million emerging middle class, and eventually the 700 million. And I think the problem with Sri Lanka today is usage and trial. You don't have enough people who've come and tried or used your country, or come here the first time to come here again and again. And I think that's the CAC problem that you have to solve, which is the cost of customer acquisition, or customer acquisition in tourism terms. Now, I want to give you a few examples in terms of entertainment. We're at the forefront of entertainment, and I just want to let you know a few examples so that it wakes you up. Mumbai is going to be hosting the Joshua Tree U2 concert on the 15th of December. We've just announced it 3 days back. And it's going to have 55,000 people, and 20,000 of those are going to come from outside the city or outside the country. It's going to be Joshua Tree's final show. After 32 years, they're never going to play Joshua Tree again. And it's happening in Bombay. We have Sunburn, which happens in Goa with 40,000 people every year. BookMyShow now owns that property. We had Cirque du Soleil, which we brought in, which did $8 million in revenue. And for the first time, Cirque du Soleil did a world premiere outside of Montreal, and that was in Bombay and Delhi. And so we have the NBA game. President Trump spoke about it yesterday at that conference with Prime Minister Modi, where he wants to come. On October 5th, we're hosting the first preseason NBA game with the Sacramento Kings and Indiana Pacers. And that's creating history. And what I wanted to say was, these are experiences that are actually bringing tourism to the country, and you can't even measure the impact. So I want to take a few examples and analogies to actually make it a little more interesting. There is a festival called Lollapalooza that happens the world over. It happens in South America in three cities and countries. It happens in Chicago, in Berlin. I was there. We're partners with them. Lola happens in Chicago with 120,000 people visiting every day for 4 days. The economic impact of that is about $250 million a year, just on those 4 days. And since the last 10 years, they've had a $1.5 billion economic impact for the city of Chicago. But the social impact over there is you get to taste all sorts of food, you get to listen to the music, and that you cannot measure. And all the festival goers then do a massive cleanup of using environmentally friendly products, but also to clear up the grounds before they exit. And I think that's a beautiful way of inculcating a cleanup drive. Asia's largest EDM festival happens on the beaches of Goa, and we have 40,000 people every day. And this year we've had the biggest lineup, which will happen on 27th, 28th, and 29th of December. They moved out of Goa because there was a challenge with the government and not being supportive. After 5 years, it's coming back because every year it makes a $50 million impact in just 3 days in Goa. And it's 40,000 people, and everybody that comes to Goa needs a hotel, eats food, stays in a hotel, has breakfast, travels from one place to another, and that's on the back of this electronic dance music festival. Closer to home, I spoke to you about Joshua Tree, where we have 55,000 people who will be in Bombay. I cannot imagine the economic impact that will have, but the social impact of that is, I'm putting 2 bands to open, and they will be Hindi bands, probably one small band out of Delhi, one big band out of Bombay, and they are going to be presenting their music to the World Forum just because they will be the opening act for U2 on that evening. NBA, as you know, is another one, and Cirque du Soleil is something that I spoke of. In terms of IPL, you've all heard of IPL. And IPL in a period of 12 years where BookMyShow has been involved in all the ticketing and accurate for IPL has had a phenomenal impact with $200 million as an impact year on year. And you can only imagine all the other ancillary spends. Look at England's World Cup. There were 80,000 Indians that traveled to the England World Cup. There were 23 million people that concurrently watched the World Cup on Hotstar. Can you imagine this impact that it has entertainment, sports, and live events on revenues for tourism and just bringing people together? A lot of people have spoken to me about electronic dance music and how bad it is, right? They say everybody's dancing, there's drugs, there's smoking, there's alcohol. And I keep telling them, when was the last time you heard a fight break out at an electronic dance music festival? Everybody's hugging everybody, everybody loves everybody. In a soccer match or a rugby match in the stands, people are bashing each other. At an EDM concert, everybody's kissing and making up. Just think about it. So I think there's a lot of BS that goes around, and you've got to just sort of look at the stuff around you and see what's good for you, and some of it may not. But here are the options that are available. I think the Sri Lanka model will work purely because there are open hearts and open minds. I think it'll work because there's a smile on everybody's face. I think you poke jokes at yourself and you laugh about it and you don't take yourself seriously, which is great in today's crazy world out there. You've got an absolutely stunning topography. It's the Emerald Island. It's beautiful. It's neutral. In Asia, you've got so many problems with so many countries having issues with each other. Sri Lanka is that one shining beacon which is neutral to everybody. So you can actually just come here. The other, and people talk about the hotels as a challenge. Me coming from India, from such a large nation, and I think Taj will endorse that, we are so undercapacitated in India. Even though there are rooms in Bombay, we have archaic laws which are the rent control, and I cannot put my extra home on Airbnb or Booking.com. But here you guys have rooms. You have so many rooms, and you don't have those shackles where you can't put those rooms for people. And you need rooms at every level, just not 5-star hotels. And that's why Taj is doing what they are with homestay. And I think Sri Lanka has that ability, and especially Colombo. The challenges that I think that we face are connectivity. I'm a board advisor for the New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, and we talk about India and New Zealand coming closer. There is not a single flight, so how can we come closer? Of course, FaceTime's there, but that's as good as it gets. But Sri Lanka's connectivity with India and markets like these just doesn't exist. It's not good enough. It's as simple as that. Jet Airways went down after that. What are my flight options? I had meetings yesterday in the morning, and I had to come the previous night and sacrifice Saturday night and not being at home. This is not how countries or markets or tourism is built. And I think you need connectivity, you need connectivity, you need connectivity. The second thing is entertainment infrastructure. I think we've got to focus on Colombo, on building arenas, on building theaters, on building festival grounds, and building stadiums, which are world-class, where the toilets are clean, the food is healthy. I have been to a cricket match in Sri Lanka, and we do all the ticketing here, and people are allowed to bring food from outside. And then people get food from outside and serve it to people, and people fall sick. And so we've got to be able to have quality food, quality drinks, clean toilets, and that's what will get families and kids back into stadiums. I think taxation issues, where you have to lower entertainment tax or VAT or GST for entertainment. In the US, half the states are 0, the other are 5. Most countries in Asia are 7. In Middle East, where we're working, it's 10%, but the government gives us that rebate back at 10% for some marketing fund. And I think if you've got to build tourism through entertainment, taxes have to be lowered for entertainment, and people will come. You've got to have a single window clearance, and I think that's very important, and I will work with Dilip, with the government, which is extremely receptive, to look at a single window clearance. Bar licensing, transportation for mass transport. You've got to be able to exit people quickly. You go to the Wembley Stadium, you've got these trains standing. As soon as a concert gets over, people get into these trains and they exit. You've got to be able to get people out quickly, in and out. And that is a part of the experience. IP licensing laws, you've got music, you've got things that are coming in, and that has to be very stringent and something that you can implement. I think our commitment from BookMyShow is to work with the government in Sri Lanka. We've already set up an office for the last year and a half. We're in the middle of 2 or 3 acquisitions. We've already got a cinema ticketing product and a live event ticketing product. We're bringing in shows and concerts, which we will, over a period of time, discover whether it's the monuments that are here, whether there's religious tourism that Sri Lanka has a lot to offer, what sort of customers need to come in, what sort of tourists that you want, what's the kind of entertainment, whether it's local or international, how do you expose more local talent and merge that with international talent. And I think that would be a part of our grand vision, to be able to bring that and build that every step of the way, standing by you to be able to get that to the masses, not only in the country, but to also bring people from the region into Sri Lanka. Because once you come here, it's a phenomenal destination, not just for that event, but around that period that you come for any of those events. That'll be our commitment across sporting formats, global and local theater, live concerts and festivities, food festivals. We own a festival called Grub Festival, which we'd like to get here. Setting up arenas and domes. We're already in talks about acquiring land and putting up these. And my selfish interest at the end of all of this is to keep coming back to Sri Lanka as often as I can. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and good luck for the conference.